It's illegal, it's expensive, it's lonely, and where on earth do you go to the toilet? These are all legitimate concerns if you're looking to do van life in the UK. Also, looking at social media, it's easy to think that van life is like this, or this, or this. The reality is, it's more like this. And this. After doing full-time van life in the UK for the last 18 months, we're here to tell you the truth. Here's our honest guide to doing van life in the UK. Make sure you watch a little bit later on where we chuck in some bonus tips and recommendations if you're thinking about vlogging van life in the UK. Before we go looking into what van you should get and how you should build it, let's go straight into the deep end and look at where you should park for the night and a bit of wild camping. Okay, so this is where we parked up last night. It's a really, really good park up. The sort of one that we would return back to, because as you see it, it's quite empty. As the day goes on and as the morning goes on, this will really fill up. It's starting to fill up now already, but overnight it's completely empty. There's no double yellow lines. There's no, it's not obstructing any people's view, no houses right in the way. It's got a big race course next to it, so you get to wake up and you get to do exercise. You don't feel pressure to move on. It's just a very, very good park up. It's an easy wild camping spot. By the way, we use the word wild camping. We're not going out into the forest with a tent. Wild camping is commonly used in the van life movement for finding a spot to free camp. In my opinion, it sounds better than free camping because free camping's got a sort of connotations of sponging or something like that. So we'll call it wild camping for now. So the general philosophy and rule and guideline to go by when it comes to wild camping is to arrive late and leave early. Now there are obviously spots where you can sort of push those boundaries a little bit, but if you keep to that sort of guideline, it sort of works out well for everybody, so you don't overstay your welcome anywhere, and that's the point. So here right now, it's absolutely fine. It's soon going to be taking up space for office workers in the city of York, which is where we are now. So we'll be leaving for the day and then maybe returning tonight. We try not to stay more than one night, 2 nights at a push in any one area. By doing this, you're not overstaying your welcome, you're not causing people and the residents to complain, and that's just generally a rule that you go by. And always, always, always remember to leave no trace. Is it legal to park here? Is it legal to wild camp in the UK? And the simple answer to that is sort of, yes. There are no overnight parking signs here. There are no yellow lines. There is nothing to say that you cannot park here. So you can park here. The whole thing is that if we decided to stay here and leave litter everywhere, play loud music and all the rest of it, anything that causes a disturbance or an annoyance to anyone local, then we could return here, and it's happening a lot recently, and see a big fat no overnight parking sign. So it's important, if you like your spot, don't overstay your welcome, leave it better than you found it, and hopefully it will be a free camping spot forever.
So the real question is it safe to wild camp? And we're going to address that later on, because we're going to do some urban stealth wild camping. We had such a big green open space in front of us, and it was the crack of dawn, so we went for a morning walk. Usually we would drive straight off from our wild camping spot to get on with our day. Okay, so we're back at the van now, and the place where we parked up last night is so busy. So we are heading off, and we are going to go to and address the next really important issue or important thing to do with van life, and that is toilets.
Next stop, toilets. We do have a toilet on board. I'm going to show you that toilet and why we chose that specific toilet in a second, but we hardly ever use it. And right now we're heading towards a supermarket. Why are we going to supermarket? Because supermarkets have free toilets, and they've also got petrol stations and a chance to stock up on supplies and food and what have you. It's a really good morning stop, and you usually get 3 or 4 hours parking for free. So that's where we're heading now. I'm going to show you the toilet, our toilet, when we get there, and the reason why we chose that specific one.
We headed off to Morrison's to park up and use the facilities that they offer.
As promised, these are our toilet facilities, and we use this one all the time. It's the most used thing in this van. I'll talk about that in a second. And this is a bivvy loo. This is our emergency toilet, this one in my hand here. And it basically is a foldable bucket. Is what it is. You put a biodegradable bag in it, some powder which coagulates and solidifies whatever you put in it, and then once you've done your business, you bin it. It's an emergency thing. It saves us we didn't want to carry around a bucket full of waste everywhere we go with the smells and chemicals and all the rest of it. So we opted for this. There's plus and minuses for everything. We thought long and hard about what we've got for this country, and for us, this is the best option. This is a urinal bottle shaped like a kidney, and it's basically, this is what we use all the time. It saves us having to go to toilets. Once it's full, you empty it into a toilet, and there it's done. So with these two things, we've done a year and a half, no problem. And of course, public toilets also, including supermarket toilets. So let's go to the supermarket toilet. So not only is it good for shopping, petrol, cheap food, and toilets, there are actually two other things that make Morrison's super van life friendly, and it's worth going to in the morning or at regular intervals whilst you're doing van life, and we'll show you them now.
Okay, so just as important as toilets is water and finding water for your camper van, and we're going to show you exactly how we do it. The other really good thing about Morrison's is the petrol stations usually have a tap attached to them. We headed off to find out.
Hiya! Do you mind if we just use your tap from, to get some water from your tap? Yeah. Is that okay? Thank you very much. Cheers. So, the other thing that's really good about Morrison's is they usually have water on the side of their petrol stations. A tap is usually in a box with a lock and key. As you could just see right now, they're very, very happy for us to use it. And yeah, this is a really good resource because there's Morrison's all over the country for finding water. In a second, I'll share with you other places to find water when you're on the road. You want to be carrying around with you an extendable hose that's better than this one for getting to the taps. It does make the job a lot quicker if you have a hose that can hook onto it, and a collapsible jug. These things are absolutely, in my opinion, essential for van life. If you're stuck somewhere where you've only got public toilets where you can have to cram the bucket in or whatever, these things are fantastic. Make sure you get yourself a collapsible jug, make sure you get a hose as well.
Other sources that van lifers use to find water are at the side of pubs, cemeteries, canals, and also an app called Park4Night. Park4Night is a free app and community-based system where not just water sources are marked on a map, but also places you can park your van for the night for free or for a cost. We use the app quite a bit, and it's great because you can also review the park up. Another app you can use is Search for Sites, which also has park ups and campsites listed on a map.
So, toilets, shopping, petrol, water. There is one more thing that makes Morrison's really good for van lifers. Honestly, by the time you've had your breakfast, you could have got all of this done, including your laundry.
Revolution laundrettes can be found at different locations across the UK, but mainly in Morrison's car parks we have found. They are a digital-based laundry system that you can wash and dry your clothes in an express manner just by tapping your bank card. The machines supply washing liquid and softener and cost approximately £7 for a small load and £6 for a dry. It even texts you when your load is finished. Us as van lifers spend the rest of our day doing any number of things. Usually it's exploring the surroundings that we're in, doing some form of exercise or doing work, YouTube, social media, or any life admin that needs to be done. If we do this, then retail parks are really good places to go to during the daytime because you get long car parking. This one, for instance, offers 4 hours, and so do the neighbouring retail parks.
Okay, so do you build a van or do you get someone to build it for you? There's pros and cons to each, and we're going to go quickly through them right now. We've had both of our vans built by other people. The problem with having a van built by other people is, one, it's more expensive. Two, you've got no idea how the van was built, so if anything were to go wrong, then you need to go back to that person who built it. So maybe you're thinking about building a van yourself. You're going to need space to do it, a driveway, you're going to need time. It takes a while, especially if you're doing it around work commitments. You're going to need tools and you're going to need know-how. The know-how actually you can find on YouTube. Almost every person who builds vans first started off by looking at YouTube videos, or they had previous experience of construction and what have you. The cost, however, will be a lot cheaper if you decide to build the van yourself. You're looking at just the materials, as your labour is obviously free. If you go to someone to build a van for you, the one thing that's a major benefit, and the one thing that really appealed to us, as well as not having a driveway to build a van on, was that it would be done a lot quicker than if you did it yourself. The turnaround can be anywhere between a month to 3 months, sometimes a little bit longer. We hear a lot of people who build their own vans, it can take well up to a year. So be careful of that one. And you can of course just buy a motorhome, which many people do. It's coach built, it's got everything you need in there, and there's many benefits to that. But you remove all of the fun about building your own van. Okay, so whether you're deciding to build a van yourself or getting someone to build it for you, you're gonna have to work out a layout. We strongly recommend getting a van that you can stand up in. It does change things a lot, being able to wake up in the morning and stretch, especially if it's raining outside. Remember that you're doing van life in the UK and the weather ain't always good. So standing up and being able to stand up in your van is really good. So maybe decide against the Vauxhall Vivaros and the VWs and what have you. They're better for the weekend or short break sort of travel. The other thing that you want to think about is the width of the bed. Our previous van, the bed was too short for me. I'm 6'2" and the bed was 6 foot. It was okay for a short bit of time. I ended up doing it for a year. After a year, we changed the van primarily because of the shortness of the bed. This van, however, is over 6'2" wide, so it's more around the 7 foot mark, so that I have a comfortable night's sleep. In fact, we've got a king size bed above our cab, and that just changes everything. So this is a Luton. The layout is really good for the interior of the van because the bed's up here and behind us is kitchen, showers, bed, bathroom, sitting area and all the rest of it. So have a good think about that before you do it. You also have to choose between an extra long wheelbase, medium wheelbase, short wheelbase. We recommend getting obviously more than a mid wheelbase because so you can get basically more stuff in it and a bigger living area. But think about extra long wheelbases. Think about weight issues. They're not always the best thing, even though you can get more in it. You probably would be going overweight in those sorts of vehicles. All stuff that you've got to think about before buying them. Okay, let's talk van life essentials with your van build. The things that we think after a year and a half you need. We're going to be talking about things you need for vlogging in just a second. So make sure you carry on watching for that. But let's go straight into power. Power's the most important thing, or one of the most important things in a van. Solar panels. Solar panels. If you've got a big enough roof, cover them in solar panels because solar panels are actually quite cheap. You want to be getting maximize as much of the sun's energy as you possibly can, especially if you're doing it in winter. You really need that. The big investment comes with the batteries. Our previous van had lead batteries, and to be honest with you, we're full-time vloggers on YouTube. It really didn't cut the mustard for power usage, charging things. So we now have EcoTree lithium batteries. We fully recommend them. And that just means that all of that energy that you're getting from the solar panels and also B2B, battery to battery, so when you're driving from the alternator, you get to charge your batteries as well. It can store more of it, which is what you need for living in a country where there isn't much sunlight in the winter and you need as much power as you can, especially if you're vlogging. In a second, we'll talk about inverters when we're talking about the vlogging part of all of this. That's especially for people who are wanting to do YouTube en route as well, which we'll hopefully be able to share some of our tips for you as well. Other things that we feel like are really important, apart from the solar and the batteries, are a diesel heater. I can't understand people who don't have diesel heaters in vans. It gets bloody cold in the winter in the UK. You really need them. We have had Chinese diesel heaters, 50% of them been good, 50% of them haven't been. This one that we've got now is really good. It's off Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description. It doesn't mean that when it gets delivered to you that it's going to be a good one, but make sure you get a warranty on it and you'll be able to return it if it doesn't work. If they do work after a short while, they generally sort of work full time as well. So they're worth the investment. They're about 150 quid now. Have a look into that. Diesel heaters keep you warm for a very low cost, or you can buy a more expensive German one, which you've got a greater sort of guarantee, warranty and know-how that they're actually going to work. We've already spoken about toilets. We use the Biviloo, which is bag it, bin it, as an emergency one. In the UK, we feel like that's enough. Other people have the Portaloos with the chemical toilets. Other people have composting toilets. There's pros and cons for all of them. Have a look into them yourself. We feel like we've got the best ones for us. Definitely do your own research on that. We've also got a shower in here. Now, when we've been traveling around the UK, all of the first year we didn't have a shower. We had flannel washes using hot water from the kettle. This is completely up to you. A flannel wash is very clean, especially if you're cleaning the flannels and steaming the flannels every single day. One thing that the UK also has are leisure centres as well, swimming pools and leisure centres. Last year we used those all the time. Every couple of days we would be using showers in leisure centres and gyms, and it worked really well. We would get a swim out of it, a gym session out of it. Sometimes they give you free passes. Sometimes you can pay just for the showers at leisure centres. definitely worth thinking about. We do have a shower now, which means we're not going to leisure centres at all. We're okay with that. It's nice to have a shower on board, but they do use up a hell of a lot of water. So if you're going to get a shower, make sure you've got big water storage as well. Other things you're definitely going to need, in our opinion, is a sink if you're doing full time. Sink with access to at least 25, 50, 75 litres of water. A cooker, because you're going to be making hot food, hopefully. For us, we've got an oven as well. That was an upgrade that we got with this van. We got a little bit tired of having just one pot stews and stuff and curries and stuff all the time. It is nice to throw stuff in and put them into the oven, like pizzas, roasts and all the rest of it. So we do recommend having an oven. They're not that expensive, they don't take up that much space, and they link to your gas. People are also going for induction cookers at the moment. They do use up a lot of power. If you're gonna have an induction cooker rather than a gas one, make sure you get Eco-Tree lithium batteries, because it's essential to those things. Other things that are really important are storage. Storage is completely up to you. Don't overdo the storage, in our opinion. We've got a little bit of space in our van because it's nice to have space in the van. You get a feeling of a sort of a freer mind and a tidier mind. You don't need to just ram it full of storage. Also, with more storage comes more weight. There's plus and minuses and pros and cons to all of it. Best to go minimal first and then do the storage with your minimal lifestyle. And the last one that we think is quite important, another upgrade that we had with this van that we didn't have with the last van, was the social space, the sitting area at the back here. Our last van, we spent the whole time sitting in bed because there wasn't really a sitting area. This is something that you really need to think about. Sometimes it's just enough to get a swivel seat on your front seat, so you can spin your front seat around and it opens up a living area. Sometimes you need a set area like we've got at the back here, and it just gives you that feeling of being able to stay in your van if it's wet outside and not feel too cramped and, you know, all of that sort of feeling. So we do recommend having a sitting area as well if you've got space in your van for it. Okay guys, there's one more thing that we need to talk about, and that is vlogging on the road. If you're thinking about becoming a van life YouTuber, then you may want to think about these tips. First one is lighting inside your van. Windows. Our previous van had better lighting than this one. This one we're trying to be a little bit more stealth, so we've got 2 tiny windows on the side, 2 tiny windows on the back. It doesn't bring in much light. Plus we don't have the big slidey door that most vans have, so this is a detriment to what we have and our setup. So we have had to replace that with white lights inside, like a bit like studio lights that are a bit cold, not so cozy, and they do actually draw more power than yellow lights. It's something that you want to think about. Daylight is king when you're doing photography. Do not compromise with daylight. The more daylight you can get in there, the better. So we might be adding more windows to this van at some point, because we do like being able to use daylight as much as possible, and it will make your YouTube videos look 10 times better. The other one is to get an inverter. Make sure that you get an inverter that's quite high. Not just for straightening your hair, not just for hair dryers, not just for blenders and mixers for food and smoothie makers and what have you, but also for charging laptops and all of your equipment. We've got USB in there for charging phones and stuff, but you need to be charging laptops and what have you to do editing on. Editing on laptops is far better, in our opinion, if you're making videos on the road. So make sure you get quite a high inverter. Our one's a 1800 watt, and it really does the job. If you're going to invest in an inverter, just make sure you get a high enough one anyway. The third tip that I've got for you about van life vlogging on the road is your internet. What we do, and what we've done for the whole time, is we have 2 different phones. We're on 2 different networks, both with either 100 gigabytes or unlimited data. Janine's on O2, I'm on free. Do your research and find out what networks are like all over the UK, in Wales, in Cornwall, because they're the worst that you're going to get to. Find out what does the best there, and you should be onto something. Make sure if you're traveling as a couple, you and your partner have 2 different SIMs, and that will do you wonders. One always has better signal than the other. I've heard that EE and Vodafone potentially could be better as well, but make sure you do your own research on that, and it does help. One last thing I want to say about van life vlogging on the road is to just go for it. Don't worry about going out and buying loads of equipment and photography equipment for it. If you've got a phone, it's enough. Start now. It's a lot of fun. Thoroughly recommend it. Don't burn yourself out with content and ideas and all the rest of it. Just vlog your lives. It's going to be interesting to someone, and that's enough. 3 more things to talk about really quickly. First one, safety. Over 1.5 years, we have not come across any trouble whatsoever with regards to threatening our person or being aggressive towards us. We've been moved on once. That was by a National Trust guard because we were parked in a National Trust car park. That was it. We've come across boy racers and Land Cruisers all the time. They've never caused us any harm whatsoever. They just make a lot of noise. Follow the rule of thumb. If you arrive at a park up and it looks a bit dodgy, move on. You know, you're looking for drug paraphernalia, empty beer cans, that sort of thing. If you see that, just move on to another park up. There's always people around. I feel like we live in quite a good country to be doing doing van life. I can't say that you'll never come across anything, but for a year and a half, we haven't. The second thing I want to talk about is cost. We're going to go into greater detail about this in a future video, so make sure you subscribe to watch that. We're going to go into detail about our average spending on a sort of a weekly basis, and hopefully that'll give you more insight. But all I can say right now is, of course, the initial outlay of the van is expensive. No one's getting around that. Vans cost quite a lot of money. Building the vans costs quite a lot of money. Once that's done, and you've put insurance and tax and all that to one side, you've got the cost of diesel, and if you're free camping every night, that's literally it. You're free camping every night. You can cook all 3 meals in your van. You're laughing. Seriously, the cost of living goes right down. It's a very, very viable thing to do. Diesel prices have gone up, but it's still completely, definitely the cheapest way of living that I can think of, for sure. And then life admin, all of the finicky bits with regards to paperwork. You do need a proof of address, proof of residence in the UK if you're going to be a resident of the UK. You really, really do, especially if you're going to own a vehicle, have a business, all that sort of thing. We use a family member's address to collect all of our post and get everything sent to. That's how we do it. So that if you can use a friend or a family member, that's a really good way of doing it. If you haven't got a friend or family member that could do it, there's PO boxes, and there are businesses that we believe that set up sort of pseudo addresses for you that you could possibly use at sort of a small cost. Doctors is another thing. On the NHS, you get to be a temporary member of the locality that you're in. You just go in and fill out the paperwork. You literally fill out the form and then you can book an appointment. It's simple as that. So that works out really, really well. You don't need to worry about that. And I think that sort of covers it. If you've got any more questions about that sort of thing, please don't be afraid to send us a message on Instagram. I'll leave our Instagram right here. Send us a direct message. We usually can pick up all of those. And here's the rest of the video.
Okay, so we have finished our work for the day and we are off now to go and find our park up for the evening. But we've just run out of gas. So we noticed earlier at Morrison's that they sell Calor gas bottles, and that's what we use in the van. So we're going to go there and see if they've got a full one that we can use. I'm not sure it says.
So we use Calor gas bottles. Unfortunately, pretty much for the whole time we've been doing van life, you can only swap a empty one for a full one. You can't just get a brand new full one, unfortunately. Bottles are like gold dust, unfortunately. Calor has said don't go giving any new ones out. Partly, I guess it's a supply and demand thing, I'm not so sure. Hopefully it'll change eventually. For us, for now, we've had some really ropey experiences trying to find gas bottles. The best thing to do is have a spare one, which we do now. It's actually a refill gas bottle we've got as a spare for when you run out, so then you know you've always got gas. And we also carry camping gas as well, so a little stove that we can make a cup of tea on. Okay, now we're going to go and find our urban city stealth park up for the evening. It's not something that we do much of because we're a big green removals van, but we should be able to do it because we're effectively a removals van as well as a camper van. But what we tend to do is we tend to park on the outskirts of cities, near parks, that sort of thing, with green spaces. But what we're going to go try and do now anyway, is go and find a park up for the evening close to the city centre of York that is in an urban area, and we'll get to run through and document the things that we need to think about when we're there.
So off we went to go and find our urban city stealth camp in York. Using the Park4Night app, we found an ideal park up not far away from the centre.
Okay, so that's us parked up here. It's a really good park up right in the city centre of York, in a residential area. We're obviously a huge van, you know, we're 3.7 metres tall, 6 metres long, and all the rest of it. It does on this side just say removals van, so you know we have elements of stealth and basically confusing people with how we look. On the other side there's windows and a door, but regardless of that, this is a proper urban city stealth park up. So if we can do it, you can do it. There's no double yellow lines, there's no parking meters, and there's no overnight parking signs. And as you can see right next to the van, there's a huge friggin' wall right next to it, which means that we're not going to be an eyesore for any of the residents around here. This potentially could be a really good park up for us. We are though in a city, and in a city there's lots of people, there's lots of pubs, there's lots of bars, nightclubs and all the rest of it, people going to restaurants. So we'll see how we progress, and you get to join us tonight and see how the night goes on. But we're praying for a good night's sleep, and yeah, if all goes well and this, you know, this is a good park up, this is sort of place where you could probably spend a couple of nights, because no one's really going to kick off. But obviously the longer you spend somewhere, the more that people start going, I saw that yesterday, what's going on? Thought it was a removal zone yesterday, today it looks like a campervan a little bit more, whatever. There's a chimney on top of it, there's some solar panels. So always keep moving on. It's always a good rule of thumb. But tonight we're going to enjoy and hopefully get through a whole night of city stealth urban camping.
Okay, so because we are stealth camping tonight, we have parked up here. All of the windows are open and the lights are on so people from outside can actually see in. So this is how we prepare to stealth camp for the evening. So we have these windows here and we just pull these up, like so. That blocks out the light there, but we have these windows behind me here, and we use these, which we actually made. Liam's mum made them for us. They've got little magnets on, and we place them up by the windows and they completely block out any sort of light from inside when it's dark outside.
Might be going crazy, I don't know what to do. My heart is screaming for you, babe.
Okay, so we've just got one more thing to do, and that is closing our blackout blind from the main area in the van to the cab area. And we recommend everyone doing this if they have a walk through from the main area to the cab area. So that is this here, and it works a treat. We got this one from Amazon.
You're glowing in the dark.
Let's go into York and see how close we are. I know we're right next to the city centre here, so it's so bloody, let's go and make the most of it.
Morgan is 100% stealth there. Look at him.
Nothing.
You can barely see him. He's that stealth. We made our way into the city of York for a wander through the alleys and to check out the buildings and shops lit up at night. We mainly spent our time in the Shambles area, made up of amazing cobbledy alleyways filled with unique shops, and we believe is the actual inspiration for Diagon Alley in Harry Potter.
Okay, so we've gotten back in. It's cold outside, it's dark, we're in the middle of a city, there's people moving around the van, there's cars moving around the van and stuff. It's going to calm down as the night goes on, of course, but now we're back inside. The first thing we always do is put the diesel heater on. The idea is to get the place cozy. It is obviously coming into winter, so even in summer though, get cozy, this is the retreat, this is your sanctuary. So diesel heater on, we light an incense stick usually, we put all the fairy lights on that we've got as well, all of that stuff, get the cup of tea on, get something in the oven. All those things really help with making you feel at ease and happy in your surroundings and what have you. We are in a couple. I can't attest to know what it's like to living in a van by yourself, but we have a lot of friends and we met a lot of people on the road who live in a van full-time on their own, and we've noticed some commonalities amongst them. A lot of them have dogs. Dogs are the best companion you could possibly hope for. They vlog a lot. They all seem to have sort of Instagram or YouTube or stuff like that, stories, and they do a lot of vlogging, sort of diary-esque van life stuff. And I think that's a really important thing to express yourself along the way and share your emotions. And I actually find that really interesting, watching that sort of content as well. And also, there are loads of meetups. The van life community is massive. There's an online community and then there's a real life face-to-face community. We think they're completely different to each other most of the time. The people that we've met face-to-face, the van lifers that we met face-to-face over the last year and a half, I would say 100%, not even 99%, 100% of them have been so kind and so fantastic and so just so lovely. So you don't feel alone in that respect. If you're feeling lonely, go to somewhere where van lifers park up. There are various places around the country where you'll see other van lifers. Down by the racecourse where we were last night, there was a couple of other vans down there. Always feel a little bit safer and a little bit more sort of grounded and secure when there's other van lifers around. And there's loads of places all over the country where you can go for that. Also as well, there's meetups where lots of van lifers get together. They go to campsites and other places, and they meet up and have a fire, have some drinks and have a good time. These happen all year round. We're learning about more and more as we go along. And yeah, so now diesel here, pizza in the oven, get a movie on, light an incense. It's time for stealth camping in the middle of York.
It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. But there's something moving on in the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up.
Good morning. This is what Janine looks like in the morning. You always look beautiful though, always, always. It's a nice cold icy morning outside, but inside here it's proper what?
Proper toasty.
Proper toasty.
I'm so tired.
Good morning from our urban city centre stealth park up. That was a really successful night stay. Thoroughly recommend this spot. It was completely calm all evening. Like the traffic died right down, the people died right down. This is a really good park up. We didn't get any parking tickets. No knocks on the door, no nothing. It's really, really good. Another successful city stealth park up. We've been in many, many different park ups, between 400 and 500 different ones. And we've been on the side of, slept on the side of cliffs, on beautiful white sandy beaches, in mountains, in forests. Even on Christmas Day, we was on the side of a cliff overlooking a beautiful view. And every single one I just feel very, very grateful for, that we've got the opportunity to do this, and I don't want to mess that up for everyone else. And I think as long as we carry that responsibility, that this is a wonderful thing and it needs to continue. So leave no trace. Take all of your rubbish with you. If you can, leave it better than you found it. That's the best thing to do. And this morning and every day that we do van life, we've saved money that we would have spent in a campsite, you know, at least 30 quid. We go to the local town and we buy coffees and cakes and what have you, because we're just, you know, we want to keep that balance there. Go and speak to shopkeepers, go and speak to independent businesses. When they ask you what you're doing, tell them that you're living in a camper van and you're just passing through. But what a wonderful town it is, and we've come to spend some money in your local cafe. It keeps the balance there. It's not essential van life stuff, it's just a good thing to do. Okay guys, thanks for watching and subscribing to the channel if you like our content. Up on the screen right now, I'll leave two playlists. One was last winter where things went really wrong doing van life in the UK. It was our first winter. I recommend you watch that to see how bad it can get. And the other playlist is our last summer just gone, so you can see what summer's like living in a van, touring around the UK. Good times. See you next time.
All the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right.